Hello! Alright, so all models I've been downloading are already downloaded. So now let's try to add them to the scene. For the beginning, I'll take this model, but before doing that, I'll have to launch Megascans, MS Live Link, in the 3D Max scene, because without it, it's scarcely possible that the bridge will work. So choosing the Corona option in Render Engine, because we work in Corona, then in Material Workflows Default, and pressing the required Model Expert in Quixel. This is great. So we have the model, pressing the key combination Alt-Q to see how the model looks in the scene. Now, of course, the poly count is huge here. 2 million polygons for this rock. But never mind, we'll export it to proxy. Now let's see if everything's fine with materials, because earlier Megascans had problems with Material Expert. And now I have a new version installed. So I hope that everything's gonna be okay. Yes, this is normal material. For example, earlier diffuse could be lost. Now everything is fine. So we now can set the material display. And we can go ahead and put this rock piece under the camera this way. And I nearly forgot one important point. We need to hold the camera, isolating the highlight, then highlighting the camera, entering camera selected, then link info, checking here. This is required in order not to blunder and not to move the camera after we've created it. Now we put these stones the way we need for the angle. Doesn't really look nice. Let's mirror it maybe to make it more beautiful. Okay, that looks better. And I think that's fine. So stones like that will be sticking out of water, and water will be washing them. Should look cool. We can also copy this rock piece. But before that, we have to transfer it to proxy. Choosing Corona Proxy Exporter, then choosing a place to which we'll be exporting. Let's export to the Maps folder. For now, we'll make the full mesh display mode, because I'm gonna continue working with these rocks, arranging them. I need to see how they look in my viewpoint. And then we'll simply switch to the box display mode, and we'll have a beautiful picture, because we'll not load our viewport too much. But now we're leaving it in the mesh mode. Alright, it's ready. The object is now in proxy, and we can now copy it as an instance somewhere over here. We can dodge a bit in order not to get the identical copy of the rock. So we can mirror it, for example, along one axis. But now we won't be doing this. We'll see how it will work. It's all right. Looks rather nice. We can lift it a bit more, actually. Those gaps won't be a problem. What's important is doing good for the angle. Later we can put some plans between them. Plus we need to improve this shore. We can take the same rock, by the way. And of course we should not be too enthusiastic about plain copying. But let's try, and if it really looks too bad, we'll add another rock model. So since we have a slope here, I think we'll reflect it under the slope. This way's too far. We'll fix it. Yeah, somewhere here. Let's increase it. Like a lot. Looks kind of cool from the camera. We'll only lift it higher because we can't see where it ends because of the dock. Alright, this way I think. And we should also keep in mind that rock under the house. I think that it'll be more honest to take another model and let's see what other models we have. In bridge, this one, and this square one. And we need all of them to belong to one series. Let's try this stone. It's okay. Let's transfer to proxy. The Corona displacement mod modifier was hanging there, but it will not affect anything when transferred to proxy, so we can delete it. Okay, exporting the correct path. Ready. Let's now put the stone in place where it should be. Instead of this stone. Fine, but I think that we can copy this stone through instance and put it here. They'll cross there, and it won't be a problem. Now we should adjust a bit for the house. Here we'll pass over the crossing with the stairs. We can mirror this way. This mirror copy doesn't look very nice. So I think we better do this way. There's a small slit, but I don't think that it will be noticeable. So let us check whether we have crossing with soil. It's okay. And here the house angle is hanging. Not very nice. We need to do something with stones. Alternatively, I think we can make a copy of the stone piece and cover with that piece. So keep in mind that the more objects you pull into the scene, the slower the render will be. So try to use the same models until you start using some very bold copy paste. Of course, we should avoid using copy paste, but still, if we need to block some hole somewhere, then there's nothing bad about it. Doesn't look too nice. So what if we reflect it? Like so. Alright, looks nice. The house lies on stones. Very nice. And we should continue here also. Copy with instance. So we have the house standing on stones somehow. We'll save this option for now, and let's calculate the first preview. See how these stones look at render. We can launch render in real time in order to check for holes, slits, and other defects. Over here, we'll have to lower the stone, shift a bit, and hide this hole because it doesn't look nice. And here the rocks look good. Let's start correction. We'll lower the entire house this way. Like so. Alright, saving. And now we start working with this surface. So what I'll do is I'll make basic texturing, and then we'll start working with vegetation. As I've started Quixel Mixer already, I can take some downloaded soil, plus take a couple of stones for settings. And ferns are also cool. We might use them as well. All right, let's take this material. Here's our soil. It looks like we've assigned the wrong material. Here, now it's correct. Assigning the simple UW map. Let's make around 200 by 200. Like this. Let's now make the box display mode for all these rocks. And viewport will not be running too slow. And these rocks in the form of boxes. So as you can see, we're getting quite a simple scene. We already have the wood material on the house. So let me attach the dock and assign this material. Like everywhere. Although no, we'll assign mapping to all these elements in order not to bother with them later. I'll do the cylindrical mapping, cup, Okay, so I think we can attach together all the pieces of wood and then set general mapping. I don't think we should bother with every individual piece of wood. Then, if required, we can use the Corona's randomizer map. Because it's not apparent that, in principle, we'll leave here this texture. Maybe I'll assign some different one. For now, I'm leaving it as it is. I'll retexture it later. Saving again, and starting to select plants. So I always recommend all students to select plants and vegetation in the separately launched 3D Max scene and create the asset for the separate design. First, it's fast, and second of all, we can check the models, optimize them, transfer to proxy, and add to the scene in the already prepared form. I will now show the process start, but skip the entire selection process for vegetation and plants because the process is rather long and I guess you will be bored observing it. I will only describe the selection of models in broad brush strokes, and I'll be using models from Max 3 collections. And I'm gonna need lofty wild trees. And I select a portion of compilations that could be useful. The 5th compilation looks really great. The trees look excellent. Let's see the initial reference. Yes, lofty trees with thin trunks, thin branches will fit here. I think that I'll be using the fifth compilation. And these wide branching ones I don't think will fit, in my opinion. But we can use bushes from this compilation. These cool trees with rampant crown, thin branches, they fit. They fit very well. So I'll be using the fifth compilation for main trees. I think it has the most suitable trees for our project. And for such vegetation as bushes, horsetails, and so on, there are other compilations. We'll select from them. The more models we have, the more interesting is our visualization. But we should achieve such balance in order not to oversaturate the scene with useless models that won't fit there but will be actively using the computer resources. By the way, such pines are really great, but they don't correspond to our project. But such trees are splendid, in my opinion. But they are too short. Won't do for us. Here's a compilation of some grass. And we might potentially use it as well. These are some spring plants, not exactly what we need. These are more elegant trees that would better fit into the urban landscape. Okay, the 16th compilation. And here too, very beautiful trees. I like them. But I assume that's closer to Australia. There are eucalypti here. Here's another compilation with more trees for parks. Okay, then we'll stop on the fifth compilation. I already have the fifth compilation reassembled in proxy and ready, so let's see how it looks. Some of you might think that the things I'm gonna show are of little importance, but in fact it's really so in real work. I will show that this asset is already reassembled in proxy. And we'll now open the library on the disk and see how it all looks like. So here's our library, and you see that all the trees are divided into groups with a preview for each tree. So I only have to find the required trees by preview, select and copy them to my scene with ComputerScript. One thing that should be checked is the status of textures. For this, I'm pressing Shift-T and ensuring that textures and proxies have the OK status. So it's OK, and I'm just selecting the trees. There must be wild, high, maximally rampant, knotty trees. And we'll take several. Let's not be too enthusiastic about the number of proxies, because in the end, we need all this to be rendered. There's no need to use the entire library. Only these bushes. All right. Copying. And inserting it into our scene. Here they are, our trees. Checking the layers right away. As they're in the default layer, we will transfer them to a new layer. So create a new layer, name it trees. We need this to have a separate layer with trees which could be hidden separately. Now we'll do the following. Arranging all these proxies manually using the advanced painter script for the angle, and start working with scatters, filling all the extra space around. Better in this order, otherwise if we first create a scatter and then start arranging trees manually, it will be slow and not so clear. First I'll use the proxy preview script. Entering toolbar, choosing Corona Render, and then Corona Proxy Lister. Let's start with the trees. I'll change the display mode to point cloud. I won't risk to change it to mesh so far, because it will be displayed too badly. Then removing Advanced Painter, Randomizer, pressing Add Selection, checking the scale, it's alright, orientation 360 degrees to rotate automatically around their axis, setting the minimal distance between trees to 2 meters. If you have no Advanced Painter script, I recommend you download and install it. Just bear in mind that when installing you have to launch 3D Max with administrator rights, otherwise it might install with errors and won't function. Alright, next choosing soil, switching to the camera and working for the angle. Now I think that I make the mesh reflection for the rocks as well. So choosing the soil, adding to Advanced Painter, and just using the brush to paint, arranging trees for the angle. Okay, nothing is clear in the point cloud mode. Let's make the display mode as mesh. But before that, save, because 3D Max can hang up. Choosing full mesh. And let's wait a bit. Okay, it's now displayed as mesh. Let's go to viewport. Look at these cool trees. It would be great if we had some driftwood sticking out here. But I want too much, I guess. I think I'll arrange all these trees this way. On the edges, because as I said, according to our concept, we should have framing from trees. We'll put this further, and I guess that we'll add more of these tall trees in the foreground. Starting copy paste, it shows already that the trees are too similar. Not too nice. Let's see what other options we have. This is unnecessary, and this is also unnecessary. Fine. Although trunks look now like sticks, we'll have to close them with brushes. We have such brushes. I will now make the display mode for them as mesh. We'll add some bushes like these. Max Tree also has 14 or 16 or 15 compilation. And I will now look for the one with loads of different nice bushes with such super thin branches. So I'm going to pause it and I'm going to find it. So here it is, the 14th compilation. These shrubs are really cool. Exactly what we miss in the scene. And we'll have to select the share of such models, fill the scene with them a bit. But again, we should ensure that we don't have excessive proxies, models. In the meanwhile, I'll add existing bushes from the 5th compilation. Should cover these trunks a bit so that they don't look too bare. And for diversity, I'll now collect the bush library from the 14th compilation. So opening a new scene in 3D Max. Let's see which models we'll take from the 14th Max Tree compilation. Let's take these, number 4. Choosing the Mesh Corona folder. Checking, yes. And just dragging and dropping them to the viewpoint window. First one. Choosing use scene material, we'll be using one material. The second. And the third. And let's take the 6th model, and I think that's enough. So I think that it's clear now, and I'll add other models too. So we now have all the models. And so now let's check paths to textures. We can use the relink bitmap script. But I'm not gonna bother you with extra scripts, so I'll do everything in the old way. I'll take the maps folder from the Max Tree compilation, where all the textures are, copy this path, then press Shift-T, set tracker opens, and we'll automatically reassign everything through it textures. Then choosing File, then Refresh, where all the lost textures will be displayed, highlighting them with Shift, then going to path, then to set path, increasing here the path that I copied by pressing Ctrl V. So now all textures have been automatically reassigned and their displayed status is OK. It means that everything is correct, and now I will check materials for adequacy. I'm usually concerned about leaves. They may be set in a wrong way, but this library has been already adapted for Corona renderer. So everything should be okay with materials. Maybe the problem's with bump or normal map. Let's see. Sometimes the add gamma to input parameter acts up. No, it's okay. No error displayed. It's fine with materials in general. Anyway, we'll be able to improve them in the scene. So selecting all these objects and converting proxy. The proxy path is the same path as our design. Pressing export. All the models were exported. And of course I can place them in the display mode of the box, but I'll leave mesh display mode so far to copy into our scene and quickly arrange with the advanced painter script. I'll make the mesh color green as well, just of a slightly different hue for further post-processing. I have a separate mask. Upon the render completion, I will have the wire mask and I'll use it for fine color correction of all vegetation. Now choosing bushes, let's put them into the trees layer as well. Placing models in Advanced Painter, and I could use scatters, of course, and aiming to have visible bushes in the scatter, but as I work with one angle, it's easier for me to act this way. Now I think I'll reduce them, because the objects should be less in size. Alright, not bad. Let's calculate the first preview and see whether we have errors and what can be fixed. See memory consumption in the task manager, how much 3D Max will be consuming. Well, it asks for 11.2 gigs at start. I think that's, in the end, will reach around 32 gigs, since we'll have displacement, reflections, textures. So estimate your resources. If you lack memory, it's possible that the Corona and 3D Max will just go to SWU, start recording data to hard disk. But in this case, we won't reckon on render speed. So I'll try to do all this effectively. I'll have to switch displacement on the rocks to make them render in a realistic way. Render's running now. The process is rather fast. The trees look normal. Let us shape a plan of what we need to add. We have to add some vegetation, for example, some ferns here, closer to the house. Here between the stones, we add some residual matter and sticks, taking all this from Megascans too, and close the entire background with trees. For this we'll be using scatters. Afterwards, we'll hide vegetation and continue normal work with materials, water material, soil material from Megascans. Although the basic one has been already assigned by me. Pressing stop. Now let's work with scatters and fill the background with vegetation. I think that we'll have to thin out all the trees a bit because everything is so dense on render, especially here. And I will finally remove a couple of trees. These three look normal. And it's all fine here also. For trees and rocks, we can already set the box display mode so the system will be running faster. Setting the box display here as well. We won't change or set anything here. So now let's create the multiscatter. We can use the Corona scatter, but I guess that multiscatter is more flexible, interesting, and easy to use. Creating the multiscatter and adding all our proxies right there to the list using the plus sign with a teapot. And bushes too. And indicating our soil as surface. Looks scary, but nothing to worry about. First we'll change the display mode in the form of boxes. I'll deactivate it temporarily and use spline to draw where trees will be distributed. I'll have them here, I think. Somewhere here, and behind the camera for some shadows to appear. So I'll just draw a spline and further make outline and spline. Like this. And so in order to avoid angular view, we'll make the smooth type mode for dots. And I will edit dots a bit. In fact, it's not so important because our main task is to limit the area with the camera to prevent proxy generation there. Now we'll set the spline for scatter. The scatter will be cropping the extra fields where objects will be generated. So we'll specify the spline in the border spline parameter. We'll activate scatters and see how it looks. Now we only have to set scatter correctly. First we need to reduce max count. We'll make smaller max count. Let's make 500 objects. 500 should be enough. Now we'll set random rotation because now they are standing in a line and that doesn't look nice. Choosing the rotate parameter. Let's have a look. And setting 360 degrees at z-axis. I think that we could cut down to this because these trees are only for the background and the way they are generated is not so important. But for the sake of beautiful picture, we can do the following. And the collision parameters, set the collision of around 30% to prevent the trunks growing from one point. Then it'll look nicer. Let's calculate the test color preview. I switch to the camera, deactivating MTL override. Pressing render to see what we have.